recommending maybe the delayed Steinitz because of this bishop had a lot of options with the delayed. But when you play the Morphe variation, the A6, you kind of put the test to the bishop right away. And so a lot of times it comes here, it wouldn't have the option to come back to F1 like in the game. So I think maybe that might be something to consider as opposed to.
Oh, D6. That's not really the Steinitz variation. This is the Steinitz variation.
That's the Berlin.
Oh, I'm sorry. The whole time I've been talking about the
You've been talking about the Berlin. Oh, and they play D3.
The whole time I've been talking about the Berlin. Oh, forgive me. Okay.
Right.
All right. So D6. Yeah, I think White should just play D4 here.
White usually plays D4, and then bishop they take, and then they can take and play bishop D7, or
it's a classic.
Yeah.
Center.
But let's see. I think I went for castle. I did not play D5.
Okay.
I played castle, and
it's an open game. So
I think you maybe skipped a move here, but
could you sign
yeah, I'd have
me?
6.
They need this for the rec club.
That's good. Knight of 6.
And then I went rook E1. Rook E1, bishop E7, bishop E7, H3, and then castle, C3, then bishop D7.
What should I have played here? I don't know.
Rook E8 probably. That's pretty standard. But bishop D7
I think
is not bad. A6 would transpose, if he goes back, into traditional Morphe lines, although usually this is done when the bishop has to go back here. Our question would be whether the bishop is better here. If it is, he's saved a tempo.
But also, my argument was I have an extra option now.
You do have an extra
because of rook E1
of going back to F1.
Where if you play A6 earlier, say before you castled,
you have two extra options, F1 or C2. But it's quite possible that. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not a Ruy Lopez player, but it occurs to me now that yes, it is better to go back to C2 because on these lines, the classic thing is for black to chase it back and then play C5. So white would be saving a tempo there.
Yeah. So here, bishop D7.
And white's ready to go in the center now at D4.
Yeah,
D4.
And
I played A6.
A6.
I was confused again on what to play.
But now here I have this extra option. This is actually kind of a nice square. It keeps my bishop out of the way here. And I can start packing these light squares later if you play B5. And
Which
so
I did play.
I think you play B5 right away. I think this was maybe maybe not accurate because A4 is actually pretty bad for black. Bishop, my rook. So these light squares are really getting attacked.
Yeah, standard maneuver here to meet all this center stuff is to play the rook here, and then the bishop can come back. You see it now. You've consolidated your center and possibilities.
Here, if you played rook here, I would have gone A4, and then you go bishop F8, and then I would I don't know.
Put some questions to
I might go D5 C4. To be honest, just take a lot of space here and put my knight on C3, something like.
You should actually be fine here. You got to rearrange.
You can play for.
You got to rearrange the pieces, but it's a closed game. Possibly you rearrange to the point of playing, turning it into more of a King's Indian. Now you look at where your breaks are. Okay, so your break is here. That's where you can create a pawn tension, and so you do that by getting into a sort of more looking like a King's Indian type position, and you might even go so far as to move your rook back here, right, and then knight H5. Of course, White's getting a lot of moves in. White's getting a lot of moves in as well, but this would be one way to transform into standard piece formation. Because you can see how closely this resembles King's Indian.
That's right.
You can try to break down White's space advantage by these kinds of expansions. You see that sometimes in a King's Indian as well. But the more thematic thing here would be to play for the f5, and you're probably not going to succeed with that. It's going to cramp you pretty quickly. This, and his play's going to be on the queen side, but his play's not that fast either. He's got to play b4, and
but I think
the rook over the bishop to e3, and the bishop on e3 is going to be a little vulnerable to the f5, f4.
But I think
I think you're fine.
Really fine, but I think this would be maybe an extra tempo or two for white compared to a typical King's Indian, because like usually black doesn't want to play a6 and bishop d7. So I don't.
You've played c3 though too.
I played c3, so I've lost a couple tempo too. It's an interesting structure conversion.
Lopez to King's Indian.
Yeah. So
but that's pretty advanced stuff. But that again is the pawn structure chess.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the thing.
This is if rook e8 and a4,
Right.
bishop f1, and
Right.
and I could try a different idea of knight a3.
And then I think we can just go ahead and take that pawn.
You mean take?
That's where we've kind of put this question now to white, where he doesn't have a great way to meet this. If he takes, it frees your game up a little.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll play this first. I play this first because you're going to have a pretty cramped, and then you're probably going here.
And
this bishop.
Another way to play it, other than g6, bishop g7, rook f8, knight h5. A faster way to play it, which might be good too, is to go here and here, and get it set up that way.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to unscramble this stuff, but there's a lot of interesting ways to do it. You might even be playing for g5 pretty quickly. He has a weakness here, and it will protect that pawn, but you can see these things coming up because of that weakness there. And this is very thematic in these positions
really
to move a knight from here to here. I think you consider it an achievement to get the center closed here. I'm not saying you have a better game, but I think it's been an achievement. Okay. And his only way not to do that is to protect the pawn. But these aren't the most
Let's say I don't
very
play.
passive for those. Look here, right?
Yeah.
In the game, I didn't move my rook here.
Well, we're looking at it if you did. And he's going to have to move his bishop back to d3, which he doesn't want to do, or play the knight to d2.
I think at this moment though, I can still play bishop g5, and I think this is my positional idea is if I trade this, then that takes the pressure off of e4. I'm arguing that. Then again, maybe you're welcoming trades as well, right? Because you'll have a less cramped position. But say I take here and I close the position, this bishop's going to be lacking mobility, potentially.
There might be a tactic here already, though. Let's take here. Yeah. And you could take with the queen. Take here and there's a tactic here.
There's a tactic. Black wins a pawn. Let's see. How? Okay. Oh, sure it is. But I don't know. I get some good development, maybe. Well, I can play...
I don't think you want to be searching for compensation.
d5?
d5 requires... an awkward knight move.
It might tactically. Your knight's trapped if you come here.
Yeah, I think
you got to come back, and then I'm going bishop d3. But
white's queen side's not developed either. I think we'll be able to control.
Okay, good.
So
nice
anyway,
there were some tactics.
This is why this maneuver.
Yes. I wonder if I had, and it could be that bishop d3 was more accurate. It was another move I was considering, but bishop f1 avoids some of these type of things where you get a tempo.
Sure.
I went bishop f1.
All right, so we have the position right here.
So it was here.
a6. Yeah, it was
a6, bishop f1.
And now b5.
b5.
Yeah.
a4.
I probably shouldn't have captured. Even played.
If you capture, then this pawn is forever weak. So you have to come.
We kind of discussed that, but this actually loses material. The knight would be trapped after d5.
Well, that's nasty.
Yeah. And then b4 actually loses a pawn to d5.
So you're forced into an ugly a7.
Yeah.
On knight a5 is possible. The question is just how we feel about, is that pawn weak or not? You've won the two bishops, I think.
Okay, maybe this is the way. Yeah.
We have this pawn.
Oh, yes, pawn's hanging. Yes, maybe I take here first.
I guess you'd have to think you have to take first.
We talked about that though, because take, I don't have to, I can intermezzo take here, and I think white ends up a little bit better here because you take, trade here, take, and then I think bishop.
Well, you can play pawn takes pawn and take the bigger center, or you can play bishop.
Exactly.
Or you can play bishop takes pawn and then.
They both look appealing. Yeah, this is what we. This is what I mentioned before. Is that when you take here, it helps me develop.
It's just a tiny advantage.
I almost think that after looking at it a bit more, I think this almost looks better for in this position because I have some threats with e5 coming.
Never wrong taking the big center. And you
I guess maybe you have to go knight a5, but
maybe just slow with knight d2 and claim you have a long-term nice center, but it's no crisis for black.
it's definitely just it's an edge for white, but it's not like game over or anything.
Okay, so that would have been the way to.
Maybe. Okay.
So A4 and
Take knight.
I think I did knight cap.
Knight d4.
Yeah, so yeah, you can't give up.
And I kind of just mentioned your 2 pieces for the rook. Once you learn that lesson, you basically never do that again.
You don't even give up 2 pieces for a rook and 2 pawns, even though the beginner's books tell you it's 6 points versus 7. The 2 pieces will beat the rook and 2 pawns, other things being equal in an open position. White will be better in that middle game. It's only rook and 1 pawn, definite problems. But a5, I suppose, is something to look at right away.
Okay. That takes all the pressure off from this bishop, but it does also give the bishop a little more scope.
There's also a question of there might be a tactical solution. D5, knight d8, b4. So knight, the rook's hanging.
Rook would be hanging.
See, I want to be able to get b4 in. Still
Oh,
might be
okay.
threatening it, but now we can just play the cramping a4. So this was a bad idea.
But I think bishop e5
D5.
because I'm just controlling the light squares. I think now.
Well, we have this tactic with knight d4.
Knight d4.
Simplify the position enough.
But now I have knight takes. Take.
Still has a big center, but you're actually ahead in development. The knight's not out yet, and the trades free a cramped position. And if you have a cramped position, you want to trade pieces because if there's
Open it up.
if there are, well, just picture it this
More
way: if you have a
movement.
lot of pieces, you have a small amount of room to move. The problem is there's not enough room for all like fewer pieces. The cramp doesn't matter, and in fact, it can turn to your favor in the endgame because it might just turn out that the side who did have a space advantage is overextended in endgame. Sometimes those pawns become weak, etc. So
This isn't so bad. Yeah, this is maybe almost equal. This is a weak pawn.
yeah,
But so is that. It's practically equal. This bishop. Well, no, white has. Wait a second.
Wait a minute, how did white lose a piece?
Where'd my other piece go?
His pawn. We each got a piece there, and we traded a piece here. Black's not down a piece.
Oh, I have a bishop. There's a bishop there. That's why.
I don't think it changes the assessment that much. Makes his pawn a little bit weaker. But
Yeah, I would take white here, but it's not a huge overwhelming advantage. E5, that was an idea for sure. Bishop. Yeah, take, and then
black can move here.
so black went here. Take.
I took here.
Take there, knight takes. White's just winning. Got too many pieces. All my pieces are good. The bishops play really well on the board. The knights play well. Your only hope is to try to get your bishop here, but
Yeah, there's just no hope. Let me show you another example of where you don't do even a rook and 2 pawns versus 2 pieces. It's a pretty common theme. Let's take Sicilian knight or play the open variation. Bishop c4 on move 6. Play bishop back is fine. It's, I don't know, let's just, for purposes of illustration, do it. Something like this. I'm not worrying about the exact move orders, but I want to get to this position right here. Black plays bishop b7, absolutely here. And white does not take this pawn, even though beginner's book would say he got 7 points, rook and 2 pawns for the merits of both. But these 2 pieces, are going to win this middle game against that rook, even though you might superficially think white has a material advantage of 7-6. So those point thing rule of thumbs have some huge exceptions, and the most huge exception that there is the value of 2 pieces versus rook. It's not 6-5; it's bigger than that. All other things being typical open position. Now, when you get to an end game, it's a different matter. In the end game, the rook and 2 pawns might very well be equal to, or perhaps even better, than the 2 pieces. But the old saying is that for the end game, God's put the middle game. You're not going to make it to the end.
Okay. Well.
And then a bishop's not worth 3 points, and a knight worth 3 points. It's worth 3 1/3. It's close position. And even 3 1/2. The Soviets used to call it winning the minor exchange. Winning the exchange is a rook for a rook. I would go so far as to say that won the minor exchange. And they won a bishop for a knight. Unless it's a closed position, knights do well in a closed position. But it's a typical open, semi-open position. The 2 bishops are better than the bishop and knight. Now, if you wind up with 2 bishops versus bishop and knight position, if you're on the weaker side, you should try to exchange one pair of bishops. So it's just bishop against knight. The advantage is amplified when it's 2 bishops versus bishop and knight, and we can talk about the geometry of that. And the endgame is going to be better for you too, right? Because as long as the typical endgame with pawns on both sides of the board, the extra scope of that bishop. In fact, it goes so far that if you started out with 3 pawns versus 3 and 3 versus 3, and the king starts here and the king starts here, and the bishop starts here and the knight starts there. Can you picture that? 3 on 3, complete starting position. Very close to a win for white with best play. Even though he's not a pawn up, has no advantage in pawn structure, but at a very high level. Very high level.
Now, what if white just exchanges? You won the minor exchange. Isn't that the idea?
Well, that's why white normally goes back.
Right. But if white does take,
if white does
this would
it,
be the
if
winning
white
the
does
minor
it, he's trying to make an argument that the pawn structure disadvantages for white here, or for black, matter more than black's having the 2 bishops.
I think this is actually great for black. You get these 2 bishops that are open.
Well,
But back in the day, it used to be over.
Bobby Fischer even played this exchange variation a few times. Now, if you're going to do this,
Because I think the idea is that when these get traded, white has a 4 against 3 kingside majority.
that's another idea here, is that he immediately, since this can't bolster, he's going to get this 4 on with 3.
Or we don't get to trade because
But the 2 bishops are such a big deal that even this 4 on 3 pawn majority is not. This is not popular for white to go into.
I think that's the argument. This 4 against 3 majority on the queen side is not as good because of the doubled pawns. So it's not like this 4 on 3 majority where you can make a pass pawn. So that's white's argument, but these bishops are.
But again, before the end game, God's put them away. But if the position's at all closed, then calculation's different. The knight's better than the bishop. Closed position.
Is that why the winnower variation exists? Black's the position.
Yeah, that's a good example. So let's look at the French quite often leads to closed positions, right? And
Black's trying to trade a bishop for a knight.
so white sees the space.
But white willingly closes the position. This is interesting.
He's seizing the space here.
Seizing the space.
Okay, so black here has given up the bishop for the knight, but you wouldn't call this a position where 2 bishops are favorable for white because of the mostly closed position. Also, when there's bad pawn structure, knights do better. It doesn't help a bishop particularly, but it does help a knight. They tend to be able to sit in front of bad pawns and be not molested, kicked out in a way where a bishop doesn't particularly care. It has all of its great scope. So knights tend to find better squares against bad pawn structures. Black also has that. So here we're talking about where the knight might be as good or better than the bishop, and white has a bad pawn structure. So what's in it from white?
White has a bad bishop.
Two things. He's got this space advantage. It's the main thing. We've learned
French.
we've learned that space advantages are a lot more important than we used to think.
Why does black want to give up a bishop for a knight?
And then this bishop is probably going to,
Because it's kind of a
going to be
closed
difficult.
position.
You want to trade this bishop off because it's blocked behind the pawn. That's what I was talking about when I said pawn structures. Tell you about
You can always ask Lauren
what
to
pieces to
again.
use. See, we've seen a huge example right here, the pawn structures, and it also tells you that you need to really focus on trading this piece off.
I think most of the people that I can think of are deceased. Like Roger Anderson is 90 years old or 88 or something like that. So he's maybe like one of those people we should consider. Richard Olson is another one.
I was talking about replacing
We're just playing this default.
But
well, it was.
Are you playing as white?
Some work and stuff,
Um,
whatever.
usually knight f3. Probably knight c3.
I had to convince him not to put the link adjustment on that. Do that too. At least don't do that.
You know, I to me, this is
Aggressive.
this is basically it for me this year.
Or you can just be
You want to go on?
knights before bishop.
That's fine. The problem with the Hall of Fame committee in the past, Jim. So
I don't
you're
know.
from the 70s.
I've been an E4 player. I also played
What I was thinking of in terms
E4
of knowledge about people in the past, so kind of like football players. If you're brand new
I've been out of it
football,
for
you don't
a
even know
while.
what
So
Barry
it's sort of like,
Sanders even was.
let's say you had an advanced
You know, he's
degree.
one of the greatest
you were a
players
professor
ever.
at university 20 years ago. And then you left and did something else, and now you want to go back and be a professor again after 20 years. Imagine how many journals you have to study, right, to catch up to where things are theoretically. And so I sometimes avoid that with just simpler formations here or here or here and here. But it's not objectively the most ambitious for why it's more practical. I think you want to play mainline moves, E4 or D4. I think at some point in your development, it's always good to start playing some gambits too, because you need to learn how to get counterplay in exchange for. That's a real fun one. So I would play a few gambits at some point in your life. You don't have to do it right away.
All I have to say about that.
And learn them on Lotus chess loading.